On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk CEDIA's new marketing VP, how to work from home, as well as KBIS issues. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 263, Lead with Work from Home.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Blackwire Designs, the go-to distributor for the CI industry with an extensive product lineup backed by unmatched sales and system support. Anytime dealers need it, even after hours or on the weekend.
Welcome to this episode of our ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, I'm pleased to be joined by the one and only Mr. Jason Knott. He is the Chief Content Officer at CE Pro. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, for showing up today. Due to a couple other guests being ill, unfortunately, hopefully they're feeling better. Snowstorms and all the fun stuff. You're stuck with Jason and I for most of the show today. I got something special for you all at the end, but really it's just Jason and I. We're just hanging out. So, Jason, my friend, let's kick this off. CEDIA hired a new VP of Marketing, Communications, and Research. Her name is Melissa Getchie. She is, as I said, the new VP of Marketing. She's got 20 years of experience across a variety of verticals, I would say, in the marketing space. Jason, let's chat for a second, and we're going to be real. Is one of the big complaints that you hear about CEDIA a lot from integrators is that communication is tough, and we'll kind of leave it at that. I'm not going to dig too deep into that. But communication seems to be tough. The manner in which communication goes in and comes out, it seems to be a challenge for a lot of integrators at times. What does bringing in Melissa, specifically someone with her pedigree, but also someone who's not in the industry, I think that's a good thing. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And all the things that I've heard about Melissa is that she's highly qualified and fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to working with her. And I agree with you. It's a great thing that they brought in somebody with a clean slate who can look at the market with fresh eyes and maybe say, why aren't we doing this? Or why haven't we tried that? And, CEDIA does a lot of really, really good things for the industry. And I think a lot of integrators don't know a lot of these really good things that they do for the industry. And it's a matter of getting that message out, but also being open to their input. And from what I've heard, working for an association is really difficult. You have 2,000 bosses, and one person calls and complains about something, and you have to cater to the whims or the needs of that particular member. And so it's not an easy job, that's for sure. And I look forward to working with her on it.
Yeah, I know in my time of working with CEDIA on a volunteer side, it that did seem to be one of the frustrations and one of the confusion things is, and I dealt with it. What you'd get harassed about from one member was something that you were getting praised about by a different member. If you had to pick like two key things that you hope to see improve, what would it be? We're going to send this to her as a primer.
No, I think one of the things that CEDIA doesn't do enough is tout what their members do. And they've just started doing this. And I know I've had conversations with Ed Wenk about this and the projects that the members do out in the field. And unfortunately, all the stuff that gets the press is the six-figure, over-the-top, one for the celebrity type stuff. Those are fantastic jobs, but we know what's happened during the pandemic of how many integrators who were all deemed essential workers for a reason, who were vital in going in and bringing home networks to people all across the country, all across Canada, obviously too. And that's an important role that kind of just was, I don't think anybody in the industry, anybody outside of the industry knows that this industry was the provider of. So that would be a great message to get out. And I think also maybe just some of the operational stuff. I know it's very frustrating for CE Pro. We write articles about specific business management tips, sales and marketing tips, operational hiring, firing, human resources, really, really good stuff. And those things do not get read as much as the item about the widget that goes behind the TV on the mount. Those will get 3 times the read. So it is a very tech-centric industry, but I hope that she'll be able to open up the eyes to the members of how important it is about these management and operational tactics that CEDIA can provide to them.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement on that. I will say as cool as those large projects are, they're not the bread and butter of what the industry does. And I as well would love to see more highlighting, I guess, of some of the day-to-day projects where something cool was done. And, if you follow a wide variety of people on Instagram in the business, I'm always seeing something where I go, oh, that I never thought of that. That is awesome. I'm going to totally steal that and take credit for it.
The interesting thing is, smaller company probably gets more out of CEDIA than maybe a larger company does. When they're just getting their feet on the ground and they're looking for that key peer-to-peer operational advice. So there's got to be a way, I think, for CEDIA to grow with the companies and as they get larger, because the disgruntled members that I hear from are usually larger companies, not the 1 or 2 man shops who I think really, really rely on CEDIA as a vital resource.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Jason, let's move on to a story that comes to us from CE Pro. You might have heard of it. Top 5 home tech trends for 2021. Resi solutions that resolve UC and home recording demand seem to be up there in the top. This is a really good article from our friend Bob Archer over at CE Pro with you. One of the things that I found interesting about this and continue to find interesting about this is the number of products that come into the work from home environment that are hardcore commercial. You still have, and we always will, but you still have a wide variety of people who are sitting doing an interview without a microphone, without any decent lighting, holding their laptop and getting a wonderful shot. If you're just listening to this, it's that up the nose shot that everyone loves from working on a laptop. But what do integrators that either don't flirt with commercial or don't have a background at all in commercial, how do they learn and adapt to work in and provide work from home solutions with some of the proper solutions? How do you make that jump?
Well, for one, an integrator usually isn't going to delve into the category unless he gets demand. And guess what? The demand is there. And, I was in anticipation of this. I just kind of pulled together. Bob had done another piece just itemizing the work from home combination video microphone, unified communications collaboration systems that had come out for integrators to bring to the home market. And I have gotten emails and phone calls from integrators asking for what's a list of the options and solutions. But some of these companies, I'm going to just rattle them off real quick and their solutions, besides the Crestron and Savant, of course, that have come out with these work from home solutions. But we have, Barco ClickShare, Biamp, Devio, Clear1 Aura, Clock Audio, D10, Key Digital, Logitech, Switch, MXL, Nareva, Phoenix Audio, Poly, Work from Home, and Yamaha. All of them now have targeted work from home solutions. And I bet you a lot of guys who are listening to this, who are just Resi guys, probably haven't heard of some of those companies. But now here's a whole influx of new manufacturers that are targeting you, the residential integrator, to provide these work from home solutions for your customer base. So if there's ever a time for you to look at it, it's now. And the other thing I like about it, as I just mentioned, it introduces you to a new manufacturer and new solutions that possibly might fit your need. Now, of course, that's not discounting Crestron and Savant and the others who are old school in the industry, have come up with great solutions for work from home. But it just shows you it's driven by demand.
One of the things that I find surprising about it is I kind of get the same response that you get, where you'll hear from an integrator, hey, I heard about this thing. I know nothing about it. Where do I find more information? Whose job is it is it the integrator's job to try to dig through all of this? Because it's not like going from, basic remote systems to whole home remote systems, automation systems. That's in that lane. This can be a completely different realm. Is it the dealer's job to really try and figure this out? Where's the onus on suppliers and distributors to help guide integrators into this?
No, absolutely, they can help guide, but I think it is ultimately the integrator's role. And I can count on one finger the number of integrators I know that have a person in their company who's called a chief technologist. Mm-hmm. And that person's responsibility within the company is just to seek out these new solutions and do the evaluation process. And it's tough. Integrators, we just mentioned all the operational things. They're HR guys, they're service people, they're confidants for their employees, they're schedulers, they're collectors of money, they're financial guys. They are wearing so many different hats. It's tough. And this should be the fun part, though. This should be the part that they enjoy the most, is digging into these new technologies and bringing them to their customer base. But there's only 24 hours in a day, unfortunately, for a lot of these integrators.
One of the other things that Bob touches on is recording studios, and how there is an uptick. And I don't want this to get, I don't want people to instantly disconnect, because no, recording studios are not the normal thing that gets asked for. But there are more and more people that are playing with music and digging into things. Is this one of those similar situations, just like work from home, where there's a lot of opportunity, but to me, it's an interesting business decision? Is this one of those things that integrators should kind of try to dive into without a lot of quote unquote demand, right? Or is this something where you can add it once you get asked for it?
It's definitely a niche. I mean, I would put, when you talk about ResiMercial, and I know people are probably tired of CE Pro kind of pounding this term down their throats, but we kind of came up with this thought of how do we call this market? And there's so many different prongs to it. There's the home recording studio, like we just talked about. There's the bringing these commercially oriented telecom unified communication systems into the home for the home office. There is the MDU with a common space and an MDU that has really run like a commercial project. So there's a lot of prongs to this ResiMercial space. So I'd put that home recording studio in the same way that I just put in those other ones. It's a niche market. It's going to be a smaller niche market than those other ones. Certainly home offices are going to be the biggie. If you're into MDUs, or you're in a place where you can do MDUs, then you're going to do MDUs. But if you're not, then that's a niche you would go into, just like you would go into home recording studios. But we just did a piece about the bass player, Ricky Phillips, for Styx, who Styx is not on touring anymore. And so now they've created this Styx lounge that has 1 million followers. And he realized all of his gear at home stunk. So he had to upgrade his video. He got a multi-camera microphone set up. So obviously that's at the Styx level, professional musician level. But I think somebody told me I'm not a Billie Eilish follower, but her album was recorded in her brother's bedroom.
Yeah.
On a home recording setup. So
Well, and it's crazy because I've done a fair amount of work in the mastering aspect of recording studios. We never built a lot of recording studios, but we built a lot of mastering rooms for broadcast, and they're done exactly the same way. But when we were doing that in the early 2000s, the big press piece, and I'm going to date myself minorly depending on your music taste, but Linkin Park recorded their Theory album on their tour bus with Pro Tools on a laptop, and it was one of the first major records to be completely recorded not in a studio.
I hope the bus was parked.
I don't know. I should dig into that, but
Interesting.
It's very it's very interesting how that industry has shifted. And there's tons of EDM artists who they'll mix on a plane wearing headphones, and you can do a lot without having a real studio. So there's definitely a market there. Jason, let's move on to our last story of the day. This also comes to us from CE Pro. I think you wrote this one. Which major metros are primed for active remodeling spending in 2021? You're listing essentially Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Tucson, Charlotte, Phoenix, top the list that are going to see the highest gains, and surprising most likely no one, New York City, Denver, Boston, and San Jose are all expected to have declines in remodeling spending. Jason, in digging through these numbers, and definitely go read the article, we can fairly accurately tie home technology projects to renovation spending. How do dealers best take advantage of those expected gains, hopefully in their home markets?
Yeah, I think we've been hitting on the subject already, and it's primarily, I think, work from home office is the lead. The network was this invisible thing that nobody cared about, and I can tell you, we upgraded the network here in my home once both my daughters were from home and I'm working from home most days. Everybody's in the same boat, and I think the integrator can now confidently lead with the network from a network solutions standpoint, this invisible thing that nobody saw before. But think about all the other areas that have been also amplified: outdoor entertainment, home theater, listening. All these areas have grown because of the pandemic. So obviously it depends on what your market is, but I think it's no surprise when you see Boston, Denver, San Jose, and New York on that list of declines, because of what you read about, that people now realize they don't have to live in expensive San Francisco or San Jose, expensive New York City, and they can work from home and have a better lifestyle, in the suburbs somewhere. And I would expect that trend to continue for a while. I saw a thing the other day: 59% of executives don't believe that San Francisco, the city of San Francisco, will return, quote unquote, to its previous economic level.
Wow. We talked about this in the late summer, early fall of last year, that we were starting to see renovation spending go through the roof. We were starting to see projects taking off like crazy, especially in the US. With 2021 hitting kind of the way it has, and we're not seeing restrictions necessarily lifting for international travel anytime soon. Do you think that is going to be a major aspect of this? That again, you have people who can't travel, who can't go on vacation, who can't spend that money in those ways that they normally would, that are now going to dump that back into their home?
Yeah, I think the longer it continues, the more people are going to reinvest in their homes. I think one of the other things that's interesting, if you've seen, is the lumber issue, the price of lumber. If everybody goes to Home Depot and tries to get a 2x4, you'll see it. So I think that's going to maybe put some brakes on the new home construction market a bit, because the housing is not just plain and simple, they're not going to be able to build as many if they can't get access to the lumber.
Yeah.
And so that's going to feed the renovation market even more so. So I would expect it to continue.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you for putting up with me for this whole this whole show. By myself, I had no one else to break it up. If people want to connect with you and learn more about CE Pro and find all those great articles, where can they do that?
Yeah, obviously they can go to cepro.com, and we do ask for a registration on the website. It's free, but you can register on the site. And then you can follow me on Twitter at Jason W. Knott.
Excellent. Thank you so much, my friend. Hey, thanks for watching the first segment of this week's episode. To catch the entire show, please click the link below or visit avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.